Hello everyone, my name is Sully. Today, I will be presenting my literary analysis of The Catcher in the Rye by J.T. Salinger. This presentation explores Holden Caulfield's struggle with growing up and the challenges he faces as he tries to understand the adult world. Through his loss of innocence, loneliness, and rejection of dishonesty, Salinger reveals the painful process of growing up. The central theme of The Catcher in the Rye is that growing up means losing comfort and learning to face the world honestly. This theme is shown through our four important main ideas: innocence, which represents Holden's desire to protect his childhood; loneliness, which reflects his difficulty finding genuine connections with others; honestly, which shows his rejection of dishonesty and hypocrisy he sees in adults; and family, which provides Holden with comfort and helps him with to begin to accept the changes that come with growing up. In The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, the story revolves around 16-year-old Holden Caulfield, who wanders through New York City after being suspended from Tennessee Prep. As he struggled to find purpose and connection in his life, Holden failed to develop relationships with friends, family, and strangers while becoming increasingly frustrated with the world around him. Through Holden's emotional status, Salinger explores the difficult transition from childhood to adulthood and the challenges of accepting reality. Therefore, Holden's painful struggle of growing up is conveyed through the loss of childhood innocence, deep loneliness, and a strong rejection of adult dishonesty. To begin with, Holden's painful struggle of growing up is revealed through his desperate desire to preserve childhood innocence. For example, Holden had a great attachment to his red hunting hat as a red hunting hat, with one of those very, very long beaks, which he wore whenever he wanted to feel protected and different from those around him. Since the unusual hat represents Holden's attempt to protect himself and remain separate from the adult world, it reveals his discomfort with the changes and expectations that come with growing up. By symbolizing Holden's red hat, Salinger uses the item to show that he desperately clung to the innocence and security of childhood instead of accepting the responsibilities and realities of adulthood. Furthermore, Holden's longing for innocence is shown when he thought of about his childhood friend Jane Gallagher after feeling lonely and overwhelmed, admitting, "I kept thinking about old Jane." Knowing that Jane, who is Holden's longtime unsighted lover, the readers notice Holden's constant thoughts about her, which reveals his reluctance to let go of the past and face the realities of adulthood. Consequently, Salinger further develops Holden's characterization by showing that he found comfort in childhood memories instead of accepting the inevitable changes that come with growing up, emphasizing his painful struggle to preserve innocence. In short, Holden's attachment to both his red hunting hat and his memories of Jane clearly demonstrates his desperate desire to preserve childhood innocence, revealing the emotional difficulty he faces as he grows up. Furthermore, Holden's painful struggle of growing up is revealed through his overwhelming sense of loneliness. For instance, after Holden was left alone in his hotel room following his uncomfortable encounter with Sonny and Maurice, he admitted, "What I really felt like, though, was committing suicide." This confession reveals that his loneliness comes from feeling misunderstood and emotionally disconnected from society, thus driving himself to the end, even thinking of terminating his own life. So, Salinger uses Holden's isolation to develop his characterization as a teenager who desperately seeks genuine human connection but cannot find it in the adult world. Also, after Holden left the bar where he had failed to find meaningful companionship, he confessed, "I felt so lonesome all of a sudden. I almost wished I was dead." Holden openly expressed his despair after another failed attempt to connect with others, which his words emphasize how deeply loneliness affects his emotional well being. Eventually, Salinger further developed Holden's characterization by showing that his inability to form meaningful relationships intensifies his painful struggle with growing up and leaves him feeling isolated from everyone around him. In short, Holden's repeated experiences of isolation and failed connections demonstrate how deeply loneliness contributes to his painful struggle to grow up. Lastly, Holden's painful struggle of growing up is revealed through his strong rejection of adult dishonesty and hypocrisy. For instance, when Holden absorbed the behavior of adults around him, he repeatedly criticized their dishonesty, stating, "People never give your message to anybody." Since Holden believed that people often pretend to care about others without genuinely helping them, his criticism reveals his frustration with the dishonesty he sees around the adult world. Through this, Linger develops Holden's characterization as a teenager who strongly values honesty and authenticity, but struggles to accept the imperfections of society. Moreover, when Holden spoke about the adults around him, he expressed his frustration with their superficial behavior, stating, "It was one of those things that you're not supposed to say, but I said it anyway." By showing this, Salinger demonstrates that Holden refuses to hide his true opinions simply to conform to others' expectations, even when his honesty makes him seem immature or rebellious. In doing so, Salinger further develops Holden's characterization by showing that his rejection of dishonesty makes it difficult for him to accept the complicated and imperfect nature of adulthood. Ultimately, Holden's strong rejection of adult dishonesty reveals that his difficulty accepting the realities of adulthood and emphasizes his painful struggle to grow up. As the loss of childhood innocence, deep loneliness, and strong rejection of adult dishonesty reveal, Zillinger conveys Holden's painful struggle to grow up. Considering Holden's attachment to his red hunting hat and childhood memories, his emotional and mental state reveals his unwillingness to adapt to the changes he faces as he ages. Through Holden's transition and his admission of the inevitable circumstances he must fit into, Salinger allows readers to explore the challenges any teenager could face before entering adulthood.